What's going on, YouTube? Immune 100, encouraging you to maintain faith. Hope everyone's doing well today. I want to give another testimony of spiritual warfare that I've experienced in my teenage years. When I was younger, I would have these experiences when I slipped. They call astral projection. I was able to leave my body. One particular time, I remember rising out of my body and seeing myself sleeping. And I ended up rising out of the roof. I was able to see the top of the roof, and I was able to fly around the neighborhood that I lived in the city. And each time I was able to leave my body, an astral project, they would call it, I would go further, I would venture further off. It was almost like God was showing me, revealing to me my enemies and people that wanted to harm me and things like that. So I learned to move and maneuver differently around these people, especially the ones that I thought were my friends. Their actions spoke differently. And each time that I would leave my body and things like that, I would come back, it was like I was able to, restart from where I left off. And, when I would wake back up, I would always want to, go back to sleep and finish and see what else would have happened. And it was a trip. I prayed, but I really wasn't, into reading the Bible as much during this time. I did believe in God, but, I was into other things too, and I, struggling, with trying to fit in and, peer pressure and influences and things like that. I had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend during this time, my first love. Her name was Veronica. She was a Salvadorian. And we would sneak over to each other's house on the weekends. She would come over on the weekends to visit her dad, things like that. Make a long story short, we had to take a break, and she wasn't able to come out anymore. I remember one time I went to drink with my friends. When I talk about spiritual warfare and the influence, my friend had his girlfriend with him, and I was like a third wheel. And I remember drinking. I drank a little too much, and because he had his girl with him, I decided to try to call my girlfriend, but and she lived at home with her parents. And I got frustrated because she wouldn't answer the phone. I just kept calling and calling, not thinking. And eventually somebody answered the phone and told me to stop calling. I felt so embarrassed. Things that we do when we under the influence and not in our right state of mind. I believe that it's all tied into spiritual warfare and the influence. And when we separated, we weren't talking for a while. I had this dream about her where I met her somewhere out in a desert area. I don't know if you remember the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, movie by Quentin Tarantino. Salma Hayek was in it. And a gang of other actors. But long story short, we were somewhere in the desert, and there was like a hotel across the street. So we walked to the hotel, and we end up going into one of the rooms. And as we go in the room, she pushes me on the bed. Like she was a lot shorter than me. I'm 6'1", 6'2", and she ends up pushing me on the bed and takes advantage of me. And it was like she was possessed, you know, in the dream. I know I'm dreaming, but it also felt real. It was vivid. So she pushes me on the bed and starts to take advantage of me. And as she's taking advantage of me, her face changes from a demonic face back to her face. I'm not able to get up, not able to move. As I talked about in previous videos, sleep paralysis. I wasn't able to move. And she just, going crazy. And I know it's not her because, the demonic face. So I'm scared. And all I can think to do is call on Jesus. And I wake up. And as I wake up, I wake up and my bed is soaked. And it wasn't piss, It was a trip. I was embarrassed, I tried to hide the sheets, wash the sheets and stuff like that. But I feel that I was taken advantage of spiritually by something. Something happened, you know what I'm saying? And from then on, I started to pray more often, and tried to maneuver through life differently, watched how I carried myself and who I talked to. I also experienced seeing like these dark entities that would come in the household. It wasn't just the household that I lived in, but I remember being at a friend's house, and it was the same setting. I was sitting in the living room, and I'm able to see the front door. And each time the front door was open, and the figure would climb up these two sets of stairs, these two steps, and it would stand right there on that little platform. And it looked like a transparent figure, but it was dark, but it was tall. And each time that I saw this figure, and before it would come in, the hair on my body would stand up. I just get this overwhelming feeling, that something was gonna happen, and boom, that thing started to enter each place, and it stood there for maybe like 5 seconds, then ends up floating up the stairs. It didn't walk; it would float. And each time I would freeze, like I wasn't able to move. I had my friend said he had seen it as well. I would experience a lot of different things. Like I would know when people were sick. I would pray for people. And I don't think it was me that healed people, but I believe it was the prayers. I would just go around praying for people. You know what I'm saying? But then my spirit, people didn't know that I was praying for them, things like that. People were sick, something happened to someone. People were feeling down, you know what I mean? They were trying to accomplish something, things like that. I felt like I was a little prayer warrior. Spiritual warfare is real, and I believe when you have a light of God in you, and you seek the Most High and His only begotten Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, you will be attacked. You will come under attack in various forms, various ways, mentally, physically, spiritually. You will be tempted in all different types of ways. To have you fall in sin, I believe, is to take you away from your protection, the protection that the Most High puts over you. The only way that these entities can harm us and they cause, hardships, really to us is if we walk out of the protection that the Most High gives us. And you got to stay prayed up and, lean not on your own understanding. Trust the Most High. I want to read a verse from Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And Psalms 139:7-10. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the dawn, if I dwell in the remotest part of the sea, even there, your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. Trust the Most High and his only begotten Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. And when things get difficult, going through hardships, trials, and tribulations, keep in mind that it's spiritual warfare. When people come against you and attack you, or try to oppress you, you gotta know that it's spiritual warfare. We can allow ourselves to be ruled by sin, or we can be blessed by the Most High, his only begotten Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. I like to use these red lights to represent the blood of Christ.